A Mono Black Aggro deck went 8-2 at Eternal Weekend Asia. Does that mean you need to go buy Exsanguinator Cavalry? Let's find out. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video. And today we are going to be playing with Akinori Nakano's 8-2 decklist from the 2023 Legacy Championship in Asia. That is Legacy Eternal Weekend. So if you've seen my recent Broadside Bombardier videos, like, menace on a creature is better than it looks in terms of allowing that creature to rumble in combat. And when I first looked at this card, I was like, I don't really know if this is going to see play, but I've seen it popped up in a handful of Legacy lists. It is a base 2/3 lifelinker that is going to grow every turn while also going and giving you blood tokens that you can use to get a little bit of selection. So in a Stompy Shell, Ancient Tomb plus black mana gets you to this as early as turn 1. And note that this says whenever a knight. So if you do control multiple of these, it can get saucy pretty quickly. And this decklist is a true Mono Black Aggro decklist. We are going to be playing a 6/6 flyer for 4 mana. Now there's a chunk of text in the middle of this card that has the words "you lose the game" on it, and like maybe we'll ignore that portion of the card because a 6/6 flyer should end the game in just a few turns, especially if you are going and like supplementing it with other aggro cards. Note the bottom ability here says whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 2 life. So even if your opponent just like chump blocks with something like a Thopter token, you're still going to be able to push some damage through. So why don't we take a look at the full deck list here? And thank you to Jonathan for giving me the Dealer's Choice donation deck list that is going to let me play this beautiful, beautiful deck. Those Dealer Choice donation deck lists are one of the best ways to support my channel if you're in the financial position to do so. So we have the so-called Scam Shell. Oh wait, we don't. I know we are just so used to like these cycler cards and these reanimates in the mono black decks lists that look like this, but like they're not there. They're not hiding. We are an honest to goodness Chalice of the Void deck. If you can call any Chalice of the Void deck honest. It's debatable whether or not Chalice of the Void is an honest Magic card. So we're actually not just built the same way as a lot of the decks that you would see on this channel. We are still playing some of the same cards like Dauthi Voidwalker and Orcish Bowmasters that are just objectively strong, but like this deck is trying to just reduce your life total to 0. Like it is the beatdown. You don't have to ask the question. It just is. We have a limited amount of removal with Orcish Bowmaster's Sudden Edict, and then the maybe a land, Hagra Mauling, which is a 3 mana removal spell most of the time in this format, or in ETB tapped land. Most importantly, cards like that one can be pitched to a Chrome Mox to give you that Exsanguinator Cavalry on turn 1. In looking at the deck design, this is pretty reasonable. I'm not going to count Grief as a 4 mana card when kind of like evaluating this, and I'm also not going to count Hagra Mauling on curve there, right? So if we count Hagra Mauling as more of a mana source than anything else, we're at just under half of the deck being mana. So we are going to want our opening hands to be good, because there's a decent chance that as we get into the mid to late game, we are going to flood out. So we very much want to have a real plan here. Most of the stuff on the sideboard is going to be relatively stock. You have some ways of hating on opposing strategies, some ways of stopping combo, a little bit more removal, and a pro-white thing for when you run into those like Leyline Binding style matchups. So yeah, let's see how good this deck is. Check the video description for the link to moxfield.com if you want to end up playing this one. And if you need to buy any cards, check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your order. Let's battle. So this is the sort of hand that is very good against a subset of the format. If my opponent is on creatures, like, this is perfectly reasonable, but I don't think I am supposed to keep this one. Like, conceptually, I'm not trying to be the control deck, I am trying to be the beatdown, and I don't think this hand accomplishes my primary role of doing that, even with ideal draws from here. I'm going to need another land off the top. I think this one's a keep. If I can go Exsanguinator Cavalry into Exsanguinator Cavalry, like, that is strong, and my deck is roughly half mana, and I'm on the draw. I'm going to throw back one of the 2 4-drops. These clock similarly. I think I'm going to keep the Sheoldred. I think I'd really like to draw, like, a Chrome Mox. I think that's kind of what I'm looking for here. Elvish Reclaimer. You got it. We might be playing against a Cloudpost deck. Huh. I think I am going to be the beatdown. I think I'm not going to take the turn off to play safe with Urborg here. I think I just need to get this into play and scale up, because this will scale up fast. Like, I will play a second Exsanguinator Cavalry. These will trigger twice per turn. They will trigger on each other. Like, if we're playing against something like Post or Dark Depths, I need to get my clock on. Now this, yeah, we are playing against Post. My opponent will have access to a Cloudpost next turn. I will tap for a respectable amount of mana, but that's fine. So here we go. Match 1, game 1. We get to see how hard Exsanguinator Cavalry fucks. And I'm feeling good about it. This also just gives us those blood tokens as well that we could use. Like, this is already a 4-power lifelinking menace threat. Ooh. What are you doing here? You still getting rid of Post, or are you getting some utility land? Like, a Tabernacle's kind of annoying. A Thespian Stage. Alright, we're going combo. That makes my Urborg in my hand considerably more awkward. In case this comment isn't clear, Dark Depths innately doesn't tap for mana, but with an Urborg or a Yavimaya, it does. So yeah. I might still need to just play it. Tapped Cloudpost. New Elvish Reclaimer. So blocking, double blocking is on the table. Sure. So if my opponent blocks 2 on this, I hit for 4, they go to 15. Can't finish the other one with Orcish Bowmasters. Could play Orcish Bowmasters anyway. Even with a Spirit Guide, these aren't growing. I think I'm crashing in with both still. Send them. Oh, cool. That's a lot of triggers. Alright. I have 6 blood tokens, which is dope. I am showing 10 damage next turn. I can't get a Sheoldred into play right now. Is there a 2-mana play I would love to do? Not really. A Sudden Edict is okay. Drawing a Grief's not bad. This is a little weird. I have to discard first. I'm going to discard this Urborg. I don't super want to play it. Chalice on 1 can stop crop rotation. I think we're good with that. This card's nuts. It might not be good enough to win this game, but this is like strong magic that I am doing here. And as long as I stay above a Merit Lage 1-shot, things are like legitimately pretty interesting. I don't love that. My opponent is presumably a mana away from getting a Dark Depths kill this turn. Alright, so here is the activation. Dark Depths currently doesn't tap for mana. Glacial Chasm. How is this worded? Prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. Does not prevent loss of life, relevantly. Alright. Okay, there is a spirit guide. My opponent is going to use that to copy a cloud post. Got it. Okay. So, we're going to get rid of this ancient tomb. Grief. That's okay, but I really just want to get to more mana. Get rid of this Bowmasters. Sudden Edict is not great with 2 of these in play, but may become useful later. This is 2/4 mana. It could be 6. I'm going to try to make this other land drop. I'm going to discard the Grief. Negative. My opponent's going to lose 2 life per turn cycle, 4 life per turn cycle once I Sheoldred. Ancient Tomb is a little awkward here, because I'm like trying to stay at this magic number of north of 20. Which is like not the easiest thing. I gotta find this land. It just sucks. I'm gonna discard the Archfiend. I'm probably not safe to put that in play. Now I get Sheoldred next turn. I'll go ahead and loot with one of these. From Mox is late to the party. I'm gonna pass the turn there, and after my opponent activates their first Elvish Reclaimer and I get priority back, I will cast a Sudden Edict. But I want them to, like, commit to something first. And then I want to, like, mess up their decision. Yeah. I guess they just, like, mess with... They sacrifice this one. Yeah, that was wrong. Alright. So they've paid. Now I think I will go ahead and edict them. Alright, 1 down. We're just trying to keep them from getting, like, the Glimmer Post engine going. That lets them get a Glimmer Post. Oh. That's not where I thought we were going with this. Oh, hell yeah. I just do that right now. And wait a turn on the Sheoldred. That feels good. Glacial Chasm still locks me out of doing damage, but if my opponent keeps this Glacial Chasm around for this turn cycle, it costs them 6 life, and then Sheoldred kills them. Okay, so they are going to Thespian Stage and copy this. And then they will sacrifice the original. That's fine. If this is all they're doing, I start to, like, make up ground with Sheoldred here. Am I a Wasteland deck? I'm not, right? I'm not a Wasteland deck. This gives... No, this actually doesn't give my opponent more mana because, like, they already have Yavimaya in play. So I'm fine to play this. I can do this without taking damage. But this is going to really put my opponent on a clock here. I am still above the magic number 20 for surviving Merit Lage. So that's 5. This is 3. Future Reclaimers are off. Crop rotations are off. Glimmer Post is good. Glimmer Post buys some time. Another Exsanguinator Cavalry. There are very few reasons to not play something like this, with one of the primary ones being All is Dust. I want to really make sure that if I ever get an attack step, it is lethal. Because this deck can gain silly amounts of life, especially if my opponent top decks something like a Primeval Titan. My opponent pays for this here. It's 4 life, and then Sheoldred is the final 2. So copying now after the fact doesn't change the whole cumulative upkeep thing. My opponent has copied a Cloud Post, but they sacrificed that unless they pay the life. Yeah, that doesn't work the way I think they thought it did. They're at 4, facing down a gajillion damage. Spirit Guide is in exile. I'm not sure what you're looking for. Like, do you have another main deck Glacial Chasm? The Glimmer Post sure as hell is not stopping this. Eye of Ugin. That's not gonna do it. Okay. Aggro deck beatdown plan. Good. But we are not great at dealing with a Glacial Chasm. Yeah, opponent says learning over here. So I want Opposition Agent. I want Sorceress Spyglass. I probably want Sheoldred's Edicts as well. I'm not sure how good Grief is versus this opponent. Like, Grief doesn't take lands. Like, I know that's very obvious as a thing to say, but like the lands are the most important thing in my opponent's hand. I have to be prepared to like deal with the lands, stop them from getting the lands, or deal with the 20/20 that they can produce. Bowmasters is not particularly strong in this matchup either. Archfiend of the Dross is a little sweaty. Like, it's a very fast clock, but like Maze of Ith can potentially exist. So like this can kill me sometimes, but like this is also a flying blocker that matters. It's possible that I just like don't, or I trim. Like I can play 2 Toroks to nuke my opponent's hand. Keep a couple of these. Maybe I just keep 2 Griefs. I don't know. The Archfiend is sweatier here than it would be in a more traditional matchup. I think this one gets a no for me. I don't think it has enough persistent mana, even with half my deck being mana. I think I need to play something on turn 1 and something on turn 2. With any black card drawn, this is something on turn 1, something on turn 2. Presuming that like an Elvish Reclaimer is one of the things that would make my opponent want to keep their hand. I'm going to say that this is an awkward keep. I don't know how well this deck performs on 5 without playing more rounds. My guess is not well. Okay, I mean, like, we're any black card. Thank you. Definitely needed that. Like, we were pretty likely to hit, but I needed it. Get that out, and then I can throw down an opposition agent to prevent tutoring for scary cards. Yeah, and like this becomes a lot less scary once I can opposition agent, which I believe that I just do at sorcery speed. Like it doesn't get my opponent, but we're not trying to get my opponent. We're just trying to say no 100% of the time here. And a lot of the times, like if I pass my turn, my opponent won't activate until like my end step, and I will just miss out on the ability to use this 3 mana. Sure. All right. We will go ahead and bash on in. They're not in any danger of this growing. Opponent's at 19. And I get a Sheoldred. We are now at 9 points of damage per turn cycle. 6 from Sheoldred, 3 from opposition agent. This is a lot of pressure. Especially when my opponent can't tutor. Oh? Once upon a time? Or Dismember, maybe? Dismember. Okay, sure. Now the tutoring is live. The Dismember life loss is also real. This is probably just getting a... Ooh, it's getting a Caracas. Sure. That's reasonable. I mean, it's reasonable, but awkward. So if they're going to bounce, they should bounce now, yeah. Before I gain the extra life off the draw, which is certainly relevant. I will play out this land, but then I probably stop playing lands because like there are theoretical blood tokens in my deck that can loot through some of the stuff that looks like this. And we'll see how my opponent uses their resources from here. I imagine Forest is going or another Cloud Post, yeah. And we'll see if they go for the upkeep Caracas bounce or if it's just like cast Primeval Titan time. It is cast Primeval Titan time. All right. It's not the best for me because like a top deck Edict doesn't actually answer Primeval Titan right now. And Sheoldred as a Death Toucher doesn't answer it if Caracas is in play. Another Cloud Post. Okay, slight correction, it's a green sun. I wonder if my opponent took 2 more points of damage than they needed to. Regardless, I don't think it matters. Like I think they've just got this one. Like the combination of being on the play plus my mulligan is not leaving me in the best spot here. They missed a point of damage. They can Caracas bounce the Sheoldred and then attack in for 1. Yep. That's not good. Like, I'll redeploy this, but it doesn't really do anything. My opponent will cast some big dumb Eldrazi, and this game is over. Eye of Ugin is 7 to activate, which is like 2 Cloud Posts. Less if my opponent just like attacks first and gets 2 more things. Yikes. So here's the tutor. I think this just like is an Olamog the Ceaseless Hunger, and then they have that with Karakas. Yeah, that plus Karakas is going to just obliterate all of my permanents, and I don't think I have realistic outs from here. That's fine. So I can adjust numbers of Archfiend, of the Dross, and Grief here. But I don't really know that I want to do that. This is a tapped land on the back side, making this hand awkward instead of very good. If this is an untapped land, this hand is incredible. Second hand is very good. Very, very, very good. City of Traders goes back. My opponent usually doesn't tutor in the first turn cycle. I can probably just play Exsanguinator Cavalry on 1 into Opposition Agent on 2 relatively safely. And I think that is the line over double Exsanguinator Cavalry. I think. I believe the disruption matters. We'll imprint one of these bad boys and drop the other. Like, I am expecting my opponent to like drop an Elvish Reclaimer on 1. Like, that's just kind of the thing that their deck wants to do on 1. Ooh. Sure. I am fine making that additional land drop here. I always want to have 4 mana. And again, we're just sorcery speeding these. I can blood token away this other opposition agent, but I think I want to be able to play that around something like sorry, I want to have like the opposition agent effect around something like a Dismember. But I probably don't want that swamp. So I will probably end up looting that one away. Sure. Let's loot this land away now. Turok's interesting. I'll just pass the turn here. Great, my opponent did not use mana in that last turn cycle, which is obviously a pretty huge advantage. It's a little awkward to play this right here, because if my opponent has exactly Dismember in hand to remove this, they do get a window to tutor. But I think pressure-wise, I am supposed to make this play. It is exactly Dismember. So my opponent can tutor exactly once. They're going to go for the Glacial Chasm and go down another land. I think this is going to end up being fine for me. Fine with him to Turok here. Sheoldred is like much better than this card. It's probably greedy to not do this. Let's take the 2 cards at random here. Crop Rotation and Veil of Summer. Nice. So we're going to be looking to find a Sheoldred to finish this game off. Edicts are not bad either. I think I'm not going for that. Like, I don't think I need more of that effect. I'll play my creatures out. I am awkwardly at 19 life as of right now. Okay, the slow tick down of the ice counters. Opponent is at 3. We have gotten the GGs here, as opponent can no longer play for the Glacial Chasm on the next turn cycle. It's possible I should have played around the Dismember line, but like in these scenarios where they don't have that, I do really want that additional pressure, so hard to say. Today's video is sponsored by Eminence Gaming. Their command tower software that they use to run events is awesome, and in January, I'm going to be attending another one of their events, The Boil, in Atlanta at Charlie's Collectible Show, which is, no joke, one of the coolest venues that I've ever played at. If you are interested in some CEDH and or meeting me, consider checking it out. So my hand is a keep. I have to figure out how to play it. A little awkward with like double Chrome Mox and Grief here. I think I play Exsanguinator Cavalry on 1 that I can loot away some of this stuff. I'm also going to get rid of Archfiend of the Dross. My opponent often plays like slow, dirtily control piles, and I don't think I want to be in the position where like this is on the board and my opponent like can awkwardly invalidate it in some capacity. What are we doing? That is just a fetch around opposition agent. Sure. I respect it. Scale up. I know I said I wanted to loot this away, but I think now we're on Hardcast Grief, having seen Underground Sea. So I've gone down more cards than I would like to in my initial opening. What the fuck is this, Strifo? Alright. Descend 8. If there's 8 or more permanent cards in your graveyard, as you cast this spell, choose 1 or more instead. Turn target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. Target opponent discards a card. Look at the top 3, put 1 into your hand, the rest into your graveyard. Okay. What I care the most about this. A Bowmasters answers a grief. I think I'll take a Bowmasters. We're in unknown territory though here. Got it. Alright, they're just gonna bounce that. We're down one of those. My turn's really good. I think my Magic Online has frozen up. Okay, I'm back. This will hit my opponent for 3, bringing them to 14. I'll drop Dauthi Voidwalker, which is going to be great at messing with my opponent's graveyard-oriented stuff. And now I redeploy that Exsanguinator Cavalry. Oh great, I don't have my opponent's revealed zone anymore. That has just disappeared after that client crash. So that's slightly awkward, but we'll live with it. The Bowmasters is a great draw for the Bowmasters that my opponent is presumably about to play. Send them. There's Bowmasters. Hanging Exsanguinator Cavalry. Then all Bowmasters. And my opponent is dead. Good stuff. Whale of the Forgotten, huh? Alright. We are in weird stuff territory. I don't generally like chalices versus bug decks. They hit some stuff, but my opponent's playing a bunch of weird 2-drop removal. My opponent's going to have blockers. My opponent's going to have Bowmasters. I want some amount of value-oriented stuff. I'm just kind of like thinking about opposition agent. I think this is going to get awkwardly stalled out some portion of the time. I think I'm just going to bring in the value-oriented Turok and Plague Engineer to put on Orc. And I'm going to think about Sheoldred's Edict, because Sudden Edict, while it is uncounterable, sometimes will just absorb an Orc in a way that's like not the best. I don't really want to pitch cast Grief in this matchup. My opponent's cards are probably going to be similar. I can just like play it as a 3/2 menace, and that may or may not actually be better than opposition agent. This is not worth mulliganing, but I wouldn't call it a stellar hand. Delighted Halfling. Sure. Do I want to Lotus Petal and just kill that? Probably. Let's do that. I don't think I have to just like rush to scale up something like this in this matchup. I think this is going to be much more about like responding to things my opponent can do. Sure. I think I just Dauthi here. Like, the more cards I can keep out of my opponent's graveyard, the better. And I probably end up double spelling next turn. Oh, Assassin's Trophy. Hell yeah. I will happily take a bonus land. Sure. Now I can be on 5 mana to successfully double spell. And then, hopefully around this time, my opponent will start running out of gas, and like something like a Sheoldred can actually go the distance. Great. Force of Will is fantastic. And I lose that. We'll happily pull more swamps out of the deck. Yeah, Halfling's fine. Opponent's on 1 card. Opponent's on no cards. Kick it. Alright, we got a Force of Will out of that. And next turn we can deploy a Sheoldred. Red? Get Minsk and Boo? Would you like to do some things? Yeah, they are targeting me. This is destroy target creature. Oh, it does have a basic land. I'd probably just get rid of the mana sources here. Another Sheoldred. Well, we're going to make that Dakfaden really awkward. I'm just thinking about whether or not I'm killing this Delighted Halfling or playing Sheoldred right now. I think I'm just playing Sheoldred. So let's do this. Go to combat. Send at Dakfaden. And the bleeding begins. And that is targeting me? Or no, targeting themselves. Sure. Oh, they looted through 2 lands. Yeah, we're pretty good against Dakfaden, I would say. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com, and I personally keep all of my deck lists for every format on this site. I love that I can go and sort them by types and tags if I need to. There's a lot of different viewing options. It can give you some math about your mana symbol, your curve, and you can even playtest and do sample opening hands with it. Check this site out if you haven't before. It's awesome. Alright, I'm on the play versus a Yorion deck. This is a weird hand because I can play a 4-drop on turn 1 and like just decide whether or not I'm willing to do that. Like I can Chrome Mox, Imprint Sheoldred, Petal, Archfiend, and just try to get my opponent dead that way with a Sudden Edict backup. For science? I think for science. Alright, this is a weird one. Imprint Sheoldred, double Petal, and play a 6/6. We get 4 attacks with it, 6, 12, 18, 24. So, like, this is an appropriate clock to attempt to kill my opponent. It's real embarrassing if we go all in on this and then we just, like, eat Swords to Plowshares, but, you know, they're going to need it right now. 14. Attempt Chalice on 1. Don't do it. I think they already would have used Swords to Plowshares if they had the opportunity to. I don't think you take 6 for free. Yeah, that makes sense. All right, we're in play. Solitude is a little rough. The Chalice is in play. Like, that's a thing. I don't have a follow-up threat here. And it's unclear how much Chalice is current. Hey, follow-up threat. Hell yeah. No. Force pitching Lorien revealed. And just cantripping with a dress down. That's fine. We're not afraid of like a Phyrexian Dreadnought or anything. We are afraid of a fucking Monarch Guard. Okay, this is fine. Like, we just have a 100% clean answer to this in the short term. My opponent did not initially draw a card off of Uro or gain the life off of Uro. You know, they can potentially bring it back with another green land, which I'm hoping they don't have. I have some draws that will still line up fine against this. But this is very good. That, I would say, is maybe not one of my better draws here. We'll take it. Like, this represents blood tokens. Like, those are real. Alright, we're doing it. And now it's just mostly a question of, like, you know, Mystic Sanctuary? No. Oh, I see. It was already in hand. Yeah, that's fine. Like, grabbing a Force of Will here is very good. So, I probably don't race this Uro with just Exsanguinator Cavalry. Oh, there's more. Yorion to hand. Sure. We're gonna loot that away. I don't need that. The real question is, like, do I take a called shot and tap the Ancient Tomb to do that? I think no. I think we're just gonna junk the city and hope we don't draw a double black pip card. I wouldn't have been able to cast that one anyway. This is a surprising amount of life gain, though. Hopefully my opponent just gets a bunch of cards stuck in hand. but like Sheoldred probably just gets Force of Willed. Okay, we're doing the Yorion thing, which is gonna draw 2 cards off up the beanstalk. I assume my opponent isn't blinking their Uro. I think you just leave that in play. But my opponent should have plenty of pitch cards for the Force of Will. Does this get forced? I guess we'll find out. Like, I can crash in for my 3. Puts me back up to 17. JK. Ugh. Cantripping Solitudes is gross. I think with that happening, I'm not competitive in this game anymore. Like, my opponent can just, like, Force of Will this, cantrip, keep the board clean, attack for 10. Yeah, and I think we're good. I have seen the writing on the wall here. Turok is going to be great in this matchup. I think my Griefs are less good. They're an evasion creature, which is why I care about them. I can use Opposition Agent to make mana worse. I think I'm into that. It's just like awkward that these sometimes get stalled out, but I think I'm into doing something that looks kind of like this. Yeah, we were not prepared for white removal with the hand that I kept. I think I'm going to keep this one and just like bank on the fact that my deck is roughly 48% mana. This one's awkward if I don't hit another land immediately, because I would really like to curve Chalice directly into Opposition Agent. But I still have a play if I miss, and I think that's what is important. We're getting forced. Is that the Esper? That's the Esper one. Okay. Not quite how I want to go about this, but it hits the requirement for what I was looking for. And again, I think I just sorcery speed this. There's a real discussion to be had about whether I put the Turok or the Opposition Agent under here, but Turok is damn hard to kill in this matchup. And if I rip a Mana Source and I get to like also get a Hymn to Turok out of this card, it's kind of a huge deal. Sure. Normally I would criticize land drop prior to Ponder like that, but like Opposition Agent in play changes that. Okay, that's fine. Black mana? Chalice. Sure. We'll run this back. It's in play. We'll see how long it stays there. Also not a fetched land. Yorion to hand. That's fine. I think I hold Turok for a little while until I have that 4th mana. Especially since there's some portion of the time where Yorion going to hand is a blue card for Force of Will, in terms of considerations. Raucous. The One Ring. Where is my Bowmasters? Damn, that would have been a great time to actually draw that. Alright, we play this as a land. Just awkward. Maybe I definitely resolve this. Like, I resolve this now. My opponent can bounce it. If they bounce it, I replay it. I think so. Slightly awkward versus a Supreme Verdict style card. Yeah, we'll take that. We might just get buried by the One Ring here. A lot of this is like how many 1-drops does my opponent draw? And how soon do I find something like a Bowmasters? Island into Uro. Definitely scary. And I just used a removal spell as a land. Sure. And that probably does it for this game. I think my opponent is just going to be far enough ahead on tempo that I don't come back from this. Like, they've got the One Ring plus Uro to offset it. Yeah. I think if my opponent does anything in addition to Uro, I'm just done. Like, the Uro alone is very bad, because it's offsetting the One Ring and letting my opponent make more land drops. The more land drops allow my opponent to better utilize their remaining resources. And like, the control deck is actively discarding at this point. That's not bad. I can't do that at instant speed right now, but that's not bad. That said, I fully do not expect it to resolve. Oh no. So fucking bad for me. Like, I lose this in combat. Orcish Bowmasters does not get a ping on cast. I have to cast Orcish Bowmasters at sorcery speed because of Teferi. Everything's awful. Like, I'm still going to play it because I just have to. But my opponent has 8 cards in hand. I am not expecting that this Bowmaster is long for this world. Sure. Alright. I'm getting something out of this. Let's ping the Teferi. Let's just keep that from being able to plus. Block? Think I protect my life total here? Again, I don't know how this Bowmasters is still alive. I'll take it. But I don't understand. Okay. Sure. Try to prompt any draw-based things now. Don't know if I'm supposed to attack. Feels like attacking is a trap. I think it's just too likely that my opponent has some sort of endurance style flash blocker that gives them infinite value. Okay. Terminus? Yeah. I'm gonna pack this one in, folks. Like, the One Ring plus Teferi plus Uro on an empty board, even with my Chalice in play, we're not coming back. Alright, I've got a slightly awkward one here that I think I am supposed to keep. My opponent crashed and was forced into mulliganing, so they are maybe down one more card than they might normally be. And we're Delverin. I'm going to lead on a Chalice of the Void. Am I Chrome Moxing to play around Daze? I think so. It feels like this is a pretty important Chalice. Like, as much as I love Sheoldred, and I do love Sheoldred, I think I'm just trying to get a free one here. Just turn 1 Chalice, turn 2 Bowmasters, kill Dragon Rage Channeler to clear the board. And then we have very few cards that we need to worry about in the short to mid-term. That's fine. That was very fast. I'm not sure if that was a mistake or not. It's tough. I think it's this. I think I play that around Daze. And kill Dragon's Rage Channeler like this. And then I just let the city go. Rather than just committing to taking probably 4 immediate points of damage to the Ancient Tomb. We have the hypothetical Murktide Regent to worry about. But I've kind of got that covered with Sudden Edict. As long as my opponent doesn't do something like Bowmasters. So we've got Cavalry. And it's in play. Things are going well for us. Sure. Probably Seek the Beast. It is Daze and Volcanic Island. So my opponent gets a land drop out of this. And then if they play it as a creature, I can just remove it. Yeah, that's fine. So they might cast a cantrip and then daze it. Yeah, and then they're gonna daze to just scale this up. And then this Sudden Edict is gonna be dirty. It does mean that I use a removal spell on this rather than something like a Murktide Regent, but I think that's fine. I think I don't probably want Ancient Tomb here. Nice. So I'll ship in for this damage. I think I'm always willing to commit to just getting rid of that and just using it now. Sure. And the Exsanguinator Cavalry can also get rid of this Chrome Box. Although my opponent understandably tosses in the towel. I would like extra removal spells. That means Sheoldred's Edict and probably Plague Engineer. I guess I don't want Grief. I don't want a 2-for-1 myself in this matchup. I've boarded out Grief just about every time. I think it's still supposed to be in the deck because it's just one of your best tools versus combo, but I'm playing against fair stuff today. I think this is what I'm doing. Plague Engineer is sometimes a removal spell. And I think we take sometimes removal spells. I don't love the second Chrome Mox with this hand, but I think the hand is a keep. What I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to play a Chrome Mox prior to a land drop to see if the Chrome Mox gets dazed. It does not. I think expensive card under is how I'm going to do this one, despite the fact that Sheoldred is pretty damn good. I think I just keep this as a removal spell or a creature that my opponent plays out. Because most of them are initially vulnerable to Plague Engineer. They're not necessarily vulnerable long-term, though. I mean, that's a kick in the pants. So I'm going to play this tapped, and then next turn I can decide what to do with the Chrome Mox. This is 3 things in graveyard here. Sure. It's super punished by that meltdown. Like, I think playing around the days is fine. Oh, I think my opponent has Murktide. Sure. I mean, that's very good against Murktide. I think I'm supposed to jam Sheoldred. I think just like the way my mana works out here, I probably have to commit to the Sudden Edict in the next turn cycle. That's fine. And like playing the Plague Engineer preemptively here is just a touch awkward, especially when a 3/3 Dragon Rage Channeler isn't gonna cut it. That's fine. Damage is already done as far as the graveyard is concerned, though. Maybe I had the wrong read, and this is just like Seek the Beast that my opponent has. Sure. That's fine. Take your card. Removal spell. It is an instant, and I can play it around days. Sure. That's fine. That punishes putting Plague Engineer under here. Oh, I see. So they just want to play around an Edict. That's fine. So let's attempt to kill this. Feels like Force of Will, yeah. Pitching Daze. I've got an Edict. I mean, I'll use the Edict to get rid of the Delver, I guess. And then I just have to draw another one to get rid of Murktide Regent. Don't have a lot of time to do that. It's just literally a 2-turn clock, so my next draw has to get rid of Murktide. Not really where I want to be. Yeah, so I think my opponent had the Murktide earlier and then just wanted to wait to play it until they had like another creature, which is strong. So my initial read of Murktide Regent was correct. These are very good cards. I don't do anything on turn 1. I think I just keep this anyway. This initial land is vulnerable to Wasteland, but I just have to get the tapped black land out of the way. Okay, cool. Sorcery speed Brainstorm in respect of Orcish Bowmasters is fine. And then I just decide what I do regarding like Bowmasters versus Dauthi Voidwalker this turn. I think it's Dauthi Voidwalker around days. And then I attempt double Bowmasters next turn, when I can potentially use it as a removal spell. Alright, we're chilling. Alright, we're bolting. Now it's my turn. I think I pass with double Orcish Bowmasters available, and then play the Exsanguinator Cavalry out later. Sure. So let's cast that Bowmasters, and ping my opponent. Then we'll cast this second Bowmasters, and ping my opponent. Got a respectable amount of power on board, split across a lot of bodies. Let's send them. Opponent's at 14. Am I gonna like just walk into some sort of Pyroclasm style sideboard card if I just play out everything? Unclear. Let's do this. Oh, that's getting a response. We're seeking the beast. So that's Brainstorm and Volk. What is this? This is a human druid. Oh, this is Dazable. I don't think I care. Like if my opponent goes down a land drop here, that is a net positive for me with this much damage on board. Yeah, that's fine. All right. An Unholy Heat. Sure. There's that Volk. The Brainstorm, I assume, is not being cast. That is a 6/6 Murktide Regent and a Dragon's Rage Channeler. That is a very good turn cycle. We're debating whether or not I attack with Exsanguinator Cavalry. I think I do. Right, like if my opponent blocks, I trade Exsanguinator Cavalry for Dragon's Rage Channeler, and then I sudden Edict the Murktide. And I'm like good with that. Alright, send it on in there. Alright, it is going to work out my way. We'll block and kill that. Gain a little life in process. Edict away the Murktide. I'm ahead on board. Like, this is hanging out and chilling. As long as my Bowmasters remains in play, this is fine. But if I lose the Bowmasters to, like, a Lightning Bolt style effect here, it's pretty bad pretty quickly. That's a fine draw. Like, now the question is, like, do I try to force one extra point of damage with Orcish Bowmasters? I think the answer is no. I think I just attack with the Orc army. But it's not fully obvious whether or not that's actually correct. I am going to play around days here with our old Archfiend. Seeking the Beast. Unholy Heat. No, sorry. Dragon's Rage Channeler and Brazen Borrower as the hits. Sure. Brazen Borrower. Pretty good against my Archfiend. Alright, we are doing the Ponder thing. I'll ping my opponent's face here. Wasteland is pretty good on that Ancient Tomb. My opponent can drop this and Brazen Borrower this out of play. Assume is where we're going. Yep, that's fine. Questing Druid, definitely popping off. An opponent willing to take some hits on me here. Yeah, I don't have mana to play my spells. I probably have to attack. Alright, so we trade those. I'm at a pretty massive disadvantage. So, like, this other Questing Druid comes in. My opponent can just, like, cast the Brazen Borrower, scale up both. Yeah, I needed that Plague Engineer to resolve. I didn't think I got to take a turn off to cast it. This is really a 2/2. This is castable. I take 3 in the air always. That's not true. I guess I could do this. So I play this with the intention of blocking this on an all-out attack. Another daze. Okay. GG's. This opening hand does not do anything for our final round here. This one's also not good. I don't know that I want to go to 5. I think I'm going to keep this and hope that I'm playing against a fair deck and just be dead versus a combo deck. I am unhappy. But I've kept it and thrown back one of the City of Traders. Come on, creature. Could be creature. Just play an elf. Just play an elf. Endurance. Sure. Play an elf? Basically an elf. We will just edict that and move on with our lives. We're probably playing against some sort of, like, Reclaimer Elves style deck list. Maybe a little weird finding time to play the Sheoldred if I have to edict another Fiend Artisan or something here. Sure. Collector Oof. Yeah, that can sit in play for a minute. We're good with that. Let's just get this damage scaling up. I can Hagra Mauling the first important creature that's played out, and then eventually use Sudden Edict to get rid of this 2/2. There's a Fiend Artisan. I will Hagra Mauling that. Sure. It is just a 4-mana spell right now. Okay. Send them. Opponent goes to 12. Let's nuke that Fiend Artisan. And I don't think I need to make the land drop here. This is potentially a Dryad Arbor. Yep. The Sheoldred triggers are doing some work. But Jigabog doesn't really do anything against me. I'm not on the reanimate plan. Opponent's holding back their creatures. Now I probably play out this land. So I do this sudden edict right now, right? Because then Oof and Endurance can't both block me. Alright. They don't want to run into double block with the known card. Oh, I see. They're going to do it that way. Oh, that's fine. I'll pass priority to my opponent. They'll cast the Endurance. And I decide whether or not I want to trade Sheoldred for both of those creatures. It's a bit of a weird one. If I trade, my Exsanguinator Cavalry becomes good, whereas currently it's bad, and this also, like, greatly reduces the power of Cradle. I think despite the fact that I tried to play around this, I still just accept this. Alright, clear the board. Play this. I'm relying a little bit on the top of my deck here to just, like, present another threat or piece of interaction. I think I'm fine as long as I draw a relevant card in 2 draws, unless my opponent presents a Grist this turn. And honestly, Grist is part of the reason to just, like, trade the Sheoldred while I can. Alright, this does have Menace, which is pretty cool. Alright, I get this Blood token. I'm going to use that immediately, because if my opponent had Bowmasters, I think they just, like, fire that off and just fully trade with this card. So let's discard this Chrome Mox to draw a card. 1? Possible 2's better. 2 gets in the way of my edicts, though. So I think I'm still just going to name 1. Alright. What do you got? Is it another Endurance? Is it Dryad Arbor now? Nope. Okay, it is another Endurance. Right, nothing changing zones. There's the beloved Cradle. I think I gotta keep swinging. Some portion of the time I do get ambushed here. But I really need to loot. I did not get ambushed. Opponent is at 3. Like last turn, I think we just go ahead and do this immediately. The Grief is fantastic. Am I willing to lose City of Traders to not take 2 damage? No, I think this is just something that I loot away. I think the 2 damage is fine. So let's Grief. See what's going on over there. This is weird to me. Because you can just, like, play the other Endurance, double block. Yeah, opponent in chat said I made an oopsie. Okay, yeah, reasonable. Atraxa was one of the things that I thought my opponent might have in hand, because, like, they're passing the turn without playing things, so it has to be something, like, weird and uncastable, so it has to be some sort of, like, Atraxa Craterhoof style card. So if my opponent double blocks, I don't loot into Grief and they're alive for another turn cycle. Alright, I like Edict. I like Opposition Agents. Plague Engineers are playable, but maybe not as good as you might think. I think I don't like the idea of Chalice on the draw. I think that's going to get me some of this stuff. I'm not sure whether or not I'm treating my opponent like a combo deck. Because, like, they have combo hands, but then there are also just these, like, fair, I'm going to grind you out with Fiend Artisan and Grist style hands. I think I'm at least doing that. I think I don't want a 2-for-1 myself. Like, just kind of looking at my cards. My cards are pretty good. I think it is maybe different when I'm on the play. This hand is a little slow. I don't think I can throw back the hand that just has 4 removal spells, though. And if I happen to just, like, hit big and grab a Chrome Mox, the hand's nuts. Like, yeah, it's very good if my opponent, like, opens up on something fair like Thoughtseize, and I just don't have the turn 1 creature staring me down. Quite happy with this. Interesting. I lost the Sheoldred, which was, in my estimation, the worst card in my hand. So, what does it say about my opponent's hand that they want my Sheoldred gone? Unsure. That's fine. You have a second creature. There is a second creature. Okay, so I can't necessarily just get rid of the Shaman unless I draw like a Lotus Petal or equivalent. Well, I got the Sheoldred back that they didn't want me to have. I have no idea how to play this turn. Like, I can just, like, sorcery speed play out opposition agent, so my opponent can't get Cradle, and that also, like, shuts off natural order, but it'll be, like, the worst versus a removal spell. If the removal spell is Snuff Out, it doesn't kill opposition agent, and it's already been boarded out. They can play other things like Fatal Push or Dismember or whatever. Grist. Opponent has Grist in hand, they can cast it with current mana. They can't do that if I Plague Engineer. I think I'm going to sorcery speed opposition agent with the hopes of potentially double Sudden Edict next turn. I don't know, this turn's really tough. Like, this is one of those turns where, like, you could sit here and spreadsheet this out to figure out, like, how good is each one of these lines? What does each one of these lines play around? I'm just going to kind of go with my gut. Oh, I have Plague Engineer. The Plague Engineer 2-for-1 is insane here. Yeah, I will happily take this damage. Like, if your play makes sense in some capacity, that's fine. Like, you know Plague Engineer is here. So is there a follow-up Thoughtseize? Another Reclaimer? There's not. Yeah, I'm just going to get a 2-for-1 with this Plague Engineer. Limited on black pips, so despite the fact that I have 5 mana, I can't double spell. So we'll Plague Engineer. I don't think there's any overlap here. Like, I don't think it matters which one of those I do. Let's go Shaman. This attack is fine. Opponent's at 15. I think they've made 2 pretty big mistakes this match. And their deck's powerful. Like, they might be able to come out of it still. Fiend Artisan is currently shut off. Don't love that I'm drawing this colorless mana here. So the Sudden Edict actually grows Fiend Artisan. I'm fine trading Plague Engineer for Fiend Artisan. I am fine trading Opposition Agent for 2 Elvish Reclaimers. The edicts are weird. I don't know, maybe I just can't endanger this Opposition Agent. Maybe things go wrong too much of the time if I do let this die. Let's just do the attack with this, it's just awkward. Alright, opponent does not trade away a Fiend Artisan. I'll Edict them because Cradle is still very much a thing. I'll lose a Reclaimer, I presume. But I don't get to play more than 1 spell a turn. It's possible I'm supposed to drop an Ancient Tomb here, but like until I have another black pip, the extra land drops don't matter a lot. Opponent can have Endurance to also mess with combat math. The 4/4 now. Let's just keep sending the Death Toucher in. Alright, opponent takes it. I'll pass turn and just like see if they have an Endurance. They do. I can Edict now. Guaranteed get rid of Reclaimer. I don't think that matters. I think having the second opposition agent matters more. Like if my opponent starts trying to become the beatdown, I like flash in opposition agent and potentially just have them dead very quickly to a Sheoldred. So I think I'll just take all of that. Go to 10. Put this in. A little awkward if there's another Endurance here. I still am unable to multi-spell, which is frustrating. Pretty bad if my opponent has Endurance. How am I beating them if they have Endurance? I'm probably just not. Probably just not, since I can't multi-spell. Alright, sacrifice a dude. There's an Endurance down. This grows. Do I have to hold this back? Do I have to trade this with Fiend Artisan? Just accept that I lose one of these if my opponent does have Endurance. I think that's right. Ooh, no Endurance. Opponent is on chump block duty. I read the situation wrong. Invigorate. Okay. Sure. It's a little weird, but alright. I just need another black mana. And then, like, I play Sheoldred and we're just good. Yeah. That's probably critical mistake number 3 of this matchup. Alright, that's great. So now I can trade Plague Engineer with Fiend Artisan, and then drop a Sheoldred. I don't think this gets to attack this turn. Send him. Oh, just taking the damage. Going to 6. We'll go 2. Lose that land. Go up to Sheoldred. And this is worth 2 immediate points of damage, while also being a Death Toucher to get it in the way of Fiend Artisan. And that is good enough for my opponent to scoop it up, and we end up positive in the league. I enjoyed this league a lot. Like, this deck felt pretty good. Exsanguinator Cavalry absolutely impressed me. That card gives you some selection where you normally don't have it, and scales up powerfully. Once you scale it up once, it's outside of the range of Lightning Bolt. This deck overall gets a thumbs up from me. We didn't really see Archfiend of the Dross kind of do its thing during this league. We played it out. It got removed by white removal or got countered. But like I see how this deck did in 8-2 at Eternal Weekend. Like I get it. This was fun playing. Decklist is down below to moxfield.com if you want to try it out on your own. And you need your copies of Exsanguinator Cavalry. Check out Cool Stuff Inc. and use promo code ThrabenU to save 5% on your next order. Folks, I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day, and I had a ton of fun playing this one. Thanks for being here. Have a great rest of the day. See ya.